welcome everyone who's sticking it out till the end of the program today. I'm Celia Merzbacher. I'm Executive Director of the Quantum Economic Development Consortium, or QED-C. And the first question that we had prepared to answer, maybe we'll just jump into. So not only give you our name and affiliation, but say a little bit about the organization. QED-C is an industry consortium that was called for in 2018 by the US Congress in the National Quantum Initiative Act. And in that bill, Congress directed the Department of Commerce, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, or NIST, in the Department of Commerce, to establish this consortium of stakeholders. And that word was intentionally vague and inclusive. And here we are several years later. QED-C is a consortium of 250 members today. Starting a couple of years ago, we opened up to non-US membership, and now we have about 35 or 40 non-US companies and research institutes. We're predominantly corporation-based, industry-driven, but we do have categories of membership for academic organizations, universities, and other type categories. So we're very inclusive of the whole ecosystem that it's going to take to make quantum a reality and to grow a quantum industry. Our mission is essentially to enable and grow the quantum industry and supply chain. So most of our corporate members, of which we have about 175 now, are small and medium-sized companies, but we also have all the really big ones that you think of in this space, like Google and IBM and Amazon and Microsoft and others. So it's been a very gratifying and exciting experience to start from nothing to create a community. It's really a trusted community, I think, that we've built. And in order to achieve this goal of growing the quantum ecosystem, we focus on all of the different gaps that need to be identified and eventually filled. Gaps in the workforce, gaps in policies and standards and benchmarks, and gaps in technology as well. And we have the ability to partner with others to fill the gaps. So that's really what we're about, and have a lot of our members here at Q2B. It's exciting to see people in person, and happy to meet with anyone who's interested in knowing more after this session. Kate, over to you.
Thanks, Celia. Yeah, it's great to hear you share what QED-C is, because the Chicago Quantum Exchange is doing something that has a lot of similarities, but is also kind of at a different level. So I'm Kate Timmerman. I'm the CEO of the Chicago Quantum Exchange, which, as you can imagine, is headquartered in Chicago, but really represents the quantum information science and engineering community, really kind of across that general Chicagoland area. We were launched in 2017, initially as a collaboration between a few academics, the University of Chicago, Argonne, and Fermi, which are two Department of Energy national labs, and have since grown to include University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, University of Wisconsin-Madison, and Northwestern. So those are our members. And initially, back in 2017, it was before the development or the passage of the NQI Act. Really, the aim was, one, to build a community of these researchers who, many of them knew each other but had not actively been working together around quantum. And then also really prepare for some of this upcoming federal funding, as well as providing kind of a front door for the region to anyone outside who was interested in learning more. Of course, industry was definitely, top of mind, but also government. And I what you were saying there, originally we assumed that would be the U.S. federal government, but more and more on the international front, we get coalitions and delegations from other countries, really aiming to build collaborations kind of across the region. Really, since that time, the Chicago Quantum Exchange has expanded to include a large number of companies, as well as a few regional partners and nonprofit partners, so about 40 of them right now, and really aimed to kind of flesh out, what is it that we are doing, and how can we really be of benefit to the region. So really kind of starting off with the fact that many of these institutions are really phenomenal research institutions. So, kind of building with that research base, but also helping to extend it, particularly with collaborations, with other regions, but as well as with industry. Building inclusive and scalable workforce development in quantum information science and engineering. And then that third pillar, which I think was the most nascent back when we first started, but I think we've actually made incredible progress and we're really excited about, is really building the quantum economy. And I think that ties in with the national work that Celia is doing, but also with an eye towards what can we do, for the greater Chicagoland region as a whole. Many other aspects to it as well, but I'd be happy to answer questions.
My name is Damir Bogdan. I'm the CEO of QuantumBasel, and yes, guess where we are located. Thank you, Kate. And sorry, but I guess I'm in the wrong panel here, because on the door it's written governmental panel, and I must admit we are not funded by the government at all. We are completely privately funded. We are a hub for quantum computing and AI, located in Uptown Basel, which is an innovation campus. And the Innovation Campus is funded by Thomas and his wife Monique. It's a $500 million Swiss franc investment, and it is to do something against the deindustrialization of a nation like Switzerland. So it's a long-time perspective, a long-term investment, and there are two focal points. First of all, it's all about sustainability, and the second focal is about technologies of the future. And there comes quantum into space, because when you talk about the future, you have to talk about quantum. This is why last year, exactly 1 week ago last year, we founded QuantumBasel. And what we said, our mission is to democratize the access for quantum computing within industry. How are we doing that? First of all, we need access to quantum hardware suppliers. So we became one of IBM global quantum hub innovation centers. Frankly, I just flew back in from New York this morning, where we had the IBM Quantum Summit yesterday. We also have close collaboration with D-Wave, quantum annealer, who has their offices on our campus. And as well, very proud of that, we are a partner with IonQ, and with IonQ, we will deploy the first IonQ quantum system on site as a physical system next year. And IonQ also announced to open up its EMEA HQ at ours. So within this vibrant economy, we also need, beside hardware, we need software access. And software is done by startups mostly. So in another hall, right, to my right, to your left, Alexandra Beckstein, the CEO of Kai Ventures, is right now on the panel talking about how our investment arm, Kai Venture, is helping quantum startup to develop their software on our campus and for our companies as well. And to round it up, if you have the hardware, if you've got the software, you also need the workforce. And the workforce, we have close collaboration with a number of university partners. We grant them access to our systems. We are also financing chairs for quantum computing professors, and we've got really close collaboration worldwide with research institutes. So coming back to our vision to democratize to access to quantum computing over our platform, we make the access to all of these systems very easy, and we teach the companies to learn what quantum is. Back to our moderator.
Back to the moderator. I
back
clearly don't belong on stage today.
Hello to her.
Had a complete disaster this morning where my live demo didn't work, and I was just recording it. That's why I was late. Good news is the recording on the quantum supply chain is now on my LinkedIn, and now I can try to ask a couple of questions. So you all have a very different story of origin for your community. You probably have the same goal, build community, but for a different purpose, out of a national economic development perspective and now international, out of academia, and as you just explained, private. Could you kind of compare what makes community for you so important? And your communities are different, right? You have different stakeholders. QED-C doesn't have the same kind of stakeholders than Basel has or Chicago has. So what makes your community unique, and why do you need that community?
I would actually disagree. I think we probably have really similar stakeholders, meaning many. I think we probably all have academics, we all have industry, large and small. We all have students at different levels. I'm waiting for you guys to disagree with me. But I will answer my kind of stab at that. You know, why is community so important? It's really because that's how you get stuff done, right? Every one of those groups comes with their own perspective, and they're really valid perspective. But it's only by integrating them all together that you get like a fully robust ecosystem, and one that can eventually be. I think this is what we're all aiming for: self-sustaining, right? We finally we get that industry adoption that then feeds the hardware providers, that honestly then hires the students, that kind of stuff. That's kind of my view.
I agree. I was going to say we have much more in common than I think differences. I am a member-based organization. People pay to belong to this membership organization. And because of that, we do preserve the value of membership to some extent. And so we do have reports and things that are not available if you're not a member. But within the membership, we are very inclusive, and we really seek to have people from across the entire ecosystem, from the people who are making supply components, critical components, who are providing services like patent offices, or people who help hiring and so on, to people who are doing system development and software development, and even end users. I would say that's a category of member that I'd like to see growing. The value proposition for a big company to come in is sometimes hard to justify, perhaps, at this time. And I think especially in the current economy, you have a very small sort of strategic corporate office or something. And so convincing them that they should, put some resources into this area and not just sort of watch it from outside is something that we're working on and continuing to engage. But because we're not place-based, like the other two that are on the stage, we're really operating sort of in this very virtual and, I would say, inclusive sort of community.
I would like to mirror what already has been said, but to put perhaps another aspect, an additional aspect on this as well. There's a world, although we are all in a quantum conference and we are talking about quantum, and most of our meetings are about quantum, there's a world outside without quantum as well. And it is only 1% of all VC investments are going into this quantum space. So we are at the beginning, we are at a kind of a pioneering stage. And you see this with all these announcements, with the roadmaps, where exponential growth, and it's like in the late 80s, 90s, when the PCs were growing from the 286, 386 processor and everything, and now it's about more coherence time and all that. So within this kind of pioneering phase, I think it's really important, it's paramount to collaborate, to partner, to look for other inputs, and to start this kind of partnership programs with all different kind of governmental bodies, startups, industry partners. You have to build up consortia. We heard about the Netherlands, and well, I don't know if it's still in the room. The lights are really bright, but I also saw Switzerland being on the number 3 and Dutch on the number 5, but I don't want to point that too much. But we have to collaborate with other countries as well, because one can't go there. If we really see the potential behind quantum computing, then we really have to step forward and to do this kind of collaborative approach over all levels.
Kate, I want to come back to something you said, and Celia, and then I'll let you wrap that up. Community is to build ecosystems, and ecosystems become self-sustaining, and that's how you become successful. And that's kind of a very market-driven view. You're from Chicago. I study at Chicago, so that makes sense. It's a little bit different in some other places, maybe. I want to talk about that. But before we get there, Celia, QED-C, and you pointed it out, paying membership. And that might be difficult for some. How much convincing does it take for you to have somebody join, and how do you why do they?
Yeah.
What is the value for them that they see that actually makes them then join, even if it's a difficult
And
economic?
they not only join, but then they stay. So,
Exactly.
I mean, we have to keep earning that value or willingness to continue to be a member. There were some interesting origin stories that I think were, in the end, partly responsible. So while we had a soft launch in 2018, we didn't actually introduce the sort of fee-based membership until 2019. And so for about a year, we started engaging at no cost, and there was no barrier to engaging and participating. And I was concerned, of course, that when we said, now you've got to pay to stay in this organization, that we would lose a lot of the people who are already involved. But partly because that we had for a year been already demonstrating value and starting to do work that was driven by what the community said it needed, very few actually didn't convert to fee-paying members at that time. So while it was a little painful, and I too am not a government organization, but I do get some government funding for which I'm very appreciative, it's been, I think, demonstrating value right from the start that built the business in a sense, and we feel a lot like a startup. And when we go back and survey, you know, why do you belong to QED-C? What do you get from it? Really, the number one answer is I make the connections with customers, with suppliers, with collaborators. People come up to me at meetings like this and say, I got my job because of QED-C. So we're making these connections that are solving problems. And I think that at the end of the day is why we continue to grow. Maybe at the beginning there was sort of a fear of missing out or curiosity factor, but now I think more and more it's real value is being delivered.
So, Kate, am I too enamored with my alma mater, Chicago, or do I hear this Chicago school, efficient markets? That's not how it works in German communities. I'm from Germany. They certainly don't have this, you know, community leading to ecosystem, to self-sustaining, and then success. Let's not even look at that. Is that part of the plan?
I think you assume I know a little bit more about University of Chicago economics than I do. Plus, I do notice that you're wearing some purple socks, so you're representing the entire Chicagoland region. Can you rephrase that? I just want to make sure I understand the question.
The way I understood you is that the community builds an ecosystem which becomes self-sustaining, and that's how you ultimately build a successful marketplace, right? That in itself is a narrative that in Europe, maybe with the exception of Basel, would be very unusual. There it's more, you know, let's talk about error correction and learn from each other, and that's where it stops.
Yeah, I think it's both, right? You have your technical goals, and then you also need the ecosystem, and the ecosystem is not fully kind of a market-driven thing, right? It's also aiming to do good in a way that no single institution would be able to do it by themselves. We have many examples of our institutions wanting to do something, and you really need that multi-institutional approach in order to move whatever that project is forward. And in quantum, the Chicago Quantum Exchange really aims to do that. I think I want to also echo, you know, many others. We actually also are not run on government funding. We are also a member dues organization. I did get your invoice today, thanks. And we're a member of QED-C, exactly. And you know, but our, you know, our institutions, both members, partners, and the like, get tons of federal funding as well, and government funding kind of across the board.
So Damir, you know, everybody talks about ChatGPT, fastest growing technology ever, trillions of users in half a day. You're maybe the fastest growing quantum ecosystem in the history of quantum. What's your secret?
Why not? I've spent nearly 10 years here in the Valley, and you pointed out perhaps, but in Basel. With Thomas, we've got an investor who does not ask why. He rather asks why not. And in his long-term perspective, in his thinking, what he really wants to do, he thinks that, okay, he does not understand quantum, but it makes sense what he heard. And so he rather thinks of, what if I've missed out the point perhaps in 10 years and then everybody is here? We've learned from BCG and McKinsey as well that those who are investing now are the ones who will be there. They will be the locomotive. Former director of SRI, Kurt Carlson, once said, in an exponential market, if you're not sure if you're the wolf or a sheep, unfortunately you're the sheep. And so I think we have to move fast because the world and the technology is changing a lot. And so what we have to have this bold vision, and our vision is perhaps to do something in a decade or in 2 decades against animal testing. Perhaps this would be, we are a life science city in Basel with Roche and Novartis and all the other companies around. So why not have this bold vision to abolish animal testing, and what can we do to abolish that? And so just to lay the foundation. And laying the foundation, we don't have membership fees, but we also have this important element of events. So we have all this every second month, a superposition logistic, a superposition financial services, a superposition life science. These are a kind of our events. We've got our global symposium coming in March with more than 20 universities and industrial partners speaking about their proceedings in the industrial part, but also on the research part. And we bring this community together so that we can talk about and learn from each other what has one done. And then after somebody is curious, we take him by the hand, we educate those companies, with the managers, whoever, and then we also conduct projects with them. And the last pillar of our success perhaps is we are now in the midst of taking one huge conglomerate in the industry part into production phase, so that it's about planning of big plants worldwide, and this will be done with the help of quantum computing, and it will be announced soon. So the success is just to have this bold vision and not to ask why, but why not?
Why not? Celia, I want to ask you, maybe the fastest growing ecosystem in quantum, but you've grown more than anyone else. You're almost running out of countries on planet Earth to take into a QED-C. And any learnings that you might be able to share?
I mean, again, it gets back to an observation that I've made before quantum in my earlier career, that when there's an opportunity that starts to emerge and you get smart people together to sort of put together a roadmap or a plan, there's more in common with their goals and their top priorities than differences in a way. And you can see that when you go and read the different national strategies. They have a lot of similar themes. And so companies want to do business, and companies think rather differently than governments. They're free to operate as long as they're not breaking any law, and they don't worry about crossing borders, and they do naturally to find markets. And so it's been quite straightforward in a way. I mean, the reason that we continue to add countries to the list, it's now 39 countries from which we accept members, is because there's demand. We don't have any really in the global south at this time. I just got my first email last week from a company in Uruguay. And so, maybe we will start adding countries in that part of the world. So we are interested in promoting the quantum ecosystem among companies and countries that have shared vision. And that is an important aspect. So when a company or other organization applies to become a member, whether they're a US-based organization or outside the US, that application is reviewed, and we do some due diligence to ensure that the company is controlled and that the access to information, including QED-C information, if they're to become a member, isn't sort of flowing directly to some part of the world that we don't feel has the same values that we do. And so we do some homework, and we in fact even consult with our government partners. We're very open about that. And as a result, after an organization is admitted, that builds this sense of community. Everybody says, okay, I'm in this organization where everyone who's in it has been through that process. And so I can do business. I can sort of have a level of trust and comfort working with the other members. So I think there's more in common. Of course, the distribution in time zones is the kind of thing that we have to overcome. We do a lot more recording and posting of things, but I think we're going to work through that, no problem.
And 39 countries, I think that's interesting. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit, because, and you're not a government organization, right? But you come out of the US, and we have QUIC in the European Union, which is your peer, and you have a close relationship with them, Q-Star in Japan, and you work with them a lot. There's a big South Korean delegation here. There are other nation representing communities. What is the thinking beyond you, QED-C, being in 39 countries?
Well,
is that a conflict? Is that
No, I don't think it's a conflict, and many of our non-U.S. Members are members of these other organizations, so there's a complementarity there. And I think it makes perfect sense. There are some issues that are going to be sort of government-facing ones that make sense for an organization to be located in other parts of the world. In the areas, and we do have these, there's an international council, which we hope will include more and more of the associations from around the world, again, to smooth the barriers to industry doing what they want and need to do in order to be successful across these different countries and regions. And it hasn't been extremely, I would say, active and productive. It's more sharing information and sharing. I mean, when I first started, one of the most frequent questions was, can you please put me in touch with someone at one of these other member companies? So even just making a joint membership directory so that the members of Q-Star can find someone in the US and vice versa is a very valuable kind of thing. So I think that I would like to, and let me just back up and say that from the beginning, even with our government funding at the outset being substantial, because it was the U.S. Department of Commerce, which is trying to help industry in general, they made it very clear to set us up so that we could include international partners and members. So although we didn't do that right away, we kind of did it in a stepwise fashion. It was baked into the original structure.
Is there a joint membership directory between Chicago and Maryland, Chicago and Boston, Chicago and Boulder? Is that something you would want to work towards too?
I think so. So no, we do not have anything like that. I love that idea. I mean, this community currently is still so small that we have plenty of connections. And to be clear, our corporate partners are not only based in Chicago, right? We have corporate partners based in Colorado, based in Boston and the like. I think there's a ton of collaboration. I do want to say, the U.S. federal government is making a lot of very regionally focused grants and investments right now. And while, I'm applying to many of them and very supportive of them, I think that's actually adding some competition in a place where there was none previously. So, my hope is that after this tranche of funding kind of comes and goes, that there will be opportunity to collaborate more. I mean, it clearly happens a ton already, but I do feel like right now there's a little bit of a pause while people are doing a lot of organizing around, funding calls and the like.
You, as you explained, come out of an investment. I don't want to say thesis, but the story comes out of an investor's brain and soul and heart. Do you have KPIs for BA? How does that work? Is it maybe a little bit more run like a VC fund or enterprise?
Well, there's sure always an investment perspective, but I must say, although our investor is 76 years old, we've got a weekly meeting for 2 hours with him, so he's very active. He's still traveling even more than I am, I must admit. He's really active in many boards of directors worldwide. But coming back to your question, we are not a non-profit, but we are also not for immediate profit. I would like to point out that way. So when you invest that much money of your private fortune into one campus, then you cannot expect a return of investment, especially when you're talking about technologies for the future. So he does not do this for himself or neither for his kids, as I said, for the generation after the next generation. So we've got long-term goals when we will get profitable, but perhaps the return of investment is more that the campus as such will gain in value. And we already attracted a lot of technology companies who open up their offices at ours. And you mentioned a few countries. Over the last 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we had a couple of representatives from some of those countries mentioned as well at ours. And it all starts with a community, and there the sustainability aspect comes back, because this is an important, it's not a return of investment, but if you can do something for the sake of the planet as well. So talking about sustainability with this kind of technology, with quantum technology, we hope that in the future we will also have, with simulation and all these kind of aspects, future climate projects can be financed. And this will also help in the sustainability part. And on the other hand, and this is some aspect which perhaps it's not that well known, but if you want to open a new data center, you have to have all these regenerative energy solutions, and we all have all them in place. So with the heat produced by our computing centers, we heat about 1,000 apartments around our campus. And so it's a whole ecosystem. And so sustainability attracts technology partners attract sustainability. And this is perhaps, if there isn't a KPI, we would like to have about 100 companies on our campus by 28.
A little bit more of a personal question as the representatives of your ecosystems. And I run a virtual ecosystem, community One Quantum, which started with Women in Quantum, and then we had the height 29 regional chapters. Some of us are introverts, some of us are extroverts, some of us get energy from networking, others feel drained. I'm somewhere in the middle, depends on the day. Today is not a good day. You strike me as an extrovert. What motivates you personally or inspires you personally to build this community? I find it's a very unique and demanding job.
If I want to start, I just 2 weeks ago I had the podcast with Yuval Borger, a superposition guy, and he asked me the same question: what drives you? And another, perhaps more on a personal note, my father is 87-year-old and he lives alone, and so I have a daily phone call with him. I have to look at the time zones when I'm traveling, but I have a daily phone call. And then he always asks, what are you doing? And then I explain, and he said, you must be stressed. And I said, no, I'm not stressed. I have a lot to do, but I'm in a flow. I like to do exactly that.
So I'm stressed.
And well, today
My
you are.
flow
It's
is-
not your best day. You pointed that out, but you're doing great with the moderation already. So, but I already had in my mind, I want to contact you. So where is Switzerland with you? Is there perhaps is there a kind of a collaboration? We will have a symposium. Perhaps it will be great if you can we can invite you and you present Chicago, your ecosystem. By the way, we have been in Chicago when the memorandum of understanding there has been signed in the White House between our state secretary and Charles Tahan. So these things keep flowing in my mind, and that's great. This is the energy. I like it.
Okay,
do you have the same smile on your face every day when you get to campus?
Well, my office is off campus. I mean, I think I definitely have the same level of excitement, right? It's rare that one has the opportunity not only to participate in, but to really help shape and drive something as exciting as what's going on right now. And I say that thinking just about my region, but honestly, I think on a global level. And so I think that's why we do it, despite the fact that it may be stressful a lot. And honestly, that I think we're doing it often with people that we really enjoy and respect, and have the opportunity to build things together.
Celia, you have the additional complication of time zones, and you're in airplanes more
no,
than
that's
anyone.
okay. I think for me, this has been the culmination of sort of my career in a way that I never could have anticipated. I worked in the same job that Charlie Tahan is doing, sort of. I was in the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy, doing the nanotechnology initiative back 20 years ago. And that was the, quantum is sort of the nano of today. And in fact, the National Quantum Initiative in the government is modeled in some ways on the nanotechnology initiative, and I feel really good about that. I think some of the things we did there were well done and appreciated, and they're working now for quantum. And so fast forward, I spent a number of years working in a semiconductor industry consortium that brought together competitors to fund some of the pre-competitive research that that industry needed. And to me, that was a fantastic example of competitors working together to solve problems that were joint and mutual. So when I saw this new consortium being announced and I reached out to learn more about it, they were excited to have me come and be part of the team to create it. And so I drew upon those experiences in the past. And at a point in my life when I was at a sort of fork and ready to change jobs and thought about what I wanted to do pretty hard, I realized that the things that I like are when science and technology find real application. And so I started my career as a materials scientist, working in the lab and publishing papers. But in the end, I felt like what I really want is to see this to the next stage, see it go out into something real. And so these opportunities where I'm sort of at that junction of research and application, I find really exciting. And quantum is right there. And so that's what kind of gets me up excited every day.
And engaging a community and delivering value is a constant struggle. No matter how extrovert and in the flow you might be, it never stops. So strategically, what's kind of the next big thing as an ecosystem? And we'll start with you and walk down here, that you want to achieve to deliver value and engagement, keep folks engaged.
Sure.
In your community.
So when we started several years ago now, we started initially focusing on what I think of as sort of traditional technology gap analyses. What lasers are needed? Where are they now? What is the gap? And writing some reports and helping to start fill those gaps. In the last year, we've done more analyses that focus on the application of the technology, that is the end use. And we've had some success, and I give a big shout out to Rima, who was on the stage earlier from the Department of Energy, who helped to sponsor workshops where we asked the question, what could quantum do for the electric grid? And we brought together not only the quantum people, but also the people who manage electric grids, and they don't really know anything about quantum. And it was extremely illuminating to understand what their needs were and to understand their impression of what the technology readiness level was. So we have all of these charts of feasibility or readiness of the technology and impact. And the quantum community and the user community had very different scores on feasibility and impact. And that's a gap that we also are looking to fill. So I think this year, we're going to be doing more of those kinds of structured workshops where we try to identify the specific use cases, not just sort of arm-wavy ones, and then say which of these has high feasibility and high impact, and we can focus on those. I would personally like, and I'll put out a plea actually, to see more. Maybe they need to come from government, maybe they can come from companies or organizations like mine, identification of quantum solvable grand challenges, to put out some real grand challenges. I know there are some organizations working on that kind of thing. I think those can be very inspirational. They can unleash the community in a sense. They could engage parts of the world outside the 39 countries perhaps, and so on. So that's a bit of a dream of mine as well.
QED-C is an excellent high-value networking opportunity, but ongoing through these workshops. You constantly are in touch with people. Kate, the Chicago Quantum Exchange has a tremendous number of partnerships and tentacles out there. The business school where I went, the Polsky Center of Entrepreneurship, the City of Chicago, different incubators, startup accelerators, of course, academia, science, and national labs. Is it for you 2024? Is it about fortifying and executing on that, or do you have the next big kind of event engagement idea that
Yeah, I
something
mean, I
that's
think in
missing?
general, we're at a point where we're trying to really figure out how to scale, right? Over the past few years, we've piloted lots of things, some to great success, some to moderate success, and particularly for the ones that are most successful, figuring out how we continue to amplify them and be most beneficial. We have one of the largest quantum communication networks in the country. How do we extend that and honestly make it more accessible to users? We launched Duality, the first quantum startup accelerator in the US. How do we make that more valuable or more more useful to the startups that are coming into it? We've piloted a lot of efforts to build a diverse and inclusive workforce, but they've been with very, very small n. How do we build that into a scale, that trains, thousands and tens of thousands of trainees? Those are very large questions. We're not going to finish them all by the end of 2024, but I think it really helps that our region, one, has this very collaborative spirit. It definitely also helps that the governor of Illinois is very supportive of this, and we as a community know that if and as we have asks, that his team is ready to respond to them. So those are very, very broad pictures. So no, I'm not going to tell you my secret sauce.
I'll contribute some purple socks. Damir, you had a costume party a couple of weeks ago that I missed, but how will Basel keep the excitement levels high through 24?
You're very welcome to the next one. First of all, it's not enough to be, as you pointed out, extroverted. You have to deliver value. How do we bring the rubber to the ground? We see the figures of efficiency gains over our use cases. We did together with our partners. We see them with IonQ, with the other partners, the customer success stories behind, and these are really value which companies then understand. Okay, perhaps with the first project we only have 10%, if at all, efficiency gain. Might be. But how much did you learn? So for the next and scaling up, you're ready. And how long does it go until it's scaled up? So asking me about the goals, I'd say perhaps another aspect of this so-called quantum advantage might be that a real quantum advantage is the moment when quantum becomes part of your tool set, a standardized part of your tool set. We do not have to explain it anymore. You just use it. You just have it here. This is really the democratization. If you really have it as a standardized tool set within your R&D and you can leapfrog some of the steps, then you're going into the right direction. We are not there yet. And the second, perhaps, as Alan Aspect already pointed out last year, a real quantum advantage might be then the energy consumption, which is extremely important. And if we can go into that direction, that with the help of quantum computer, the more efficient they get, that the less energy. You mentioned AI and ChatGPT, but AI overall they are energy guzzlers. They just use more and more energy. So if perhaps quantum can help to diminish this, that'd be great. So these are the goals we are aiming at. And as I said, bringing the rubber to the ground means that there must be true value for our customers and through our partners. And with our project, we see this happening already. Perhaps it's not at the high level, perhaps it's at the 10% base right now, but it will soon be. And then the clients are ready.
I have no idea what our end time is. I'm clearly, I'm on time. All right, I got both of them wrong. Just very, very quickly, at the end of it, when it's all done and said with your ecosystems community, what's the big deliverable, your dream?
Well, I'm going to say enabling and growing the quantum ecosystem, which is my mission, and we'll make it happen. And I'm going to add to your rapid fire down the line because Tim has been saying what everybody's little secret interest is. And so I think we'll have to all answer that question as well. And mine happens to be, I have two I'll give. One is, they're not unrelated. One is baking and eating Christmas cookies, and the other one is rowing. So they balance.
I just want the greater Chicagoland area to be the center of the quantum universe. Super simple. I don't know what, I work all the time. And I mean, Honestly, what I really try to do when I'm not working is spend time with my husband and my 10-year-old son, and have Kate time, which I periodically have to put on my calendar, which means go to the gym.
We want to help projects which do something in the term of sustainability and to help to do something against this climate issue we've got with our planet. And if there was one goal, and don't ask me how many years, I said we've got the long perspective, there was one goal, we want to contribute to do something against that. That would be great.
Beautiful, and I want a drink. Somebody keep me away from stage and mics for the rest of the day. I'd like to thank Damir, Kate, and Celia. Community is important. Innovation, especially quantum, cannot be done in the ivory tower. It is something new, not just something better, and for that we need everybody to solve the big problems. So with that, I'll see anyone at the bar who wants to volunteer to keep me safe for the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you,
You
Andre.
did great, Andre. Thank you.